It's all Hillary all the time. I'm John Phillips, and this is After Hours. Hillary Clinton seems to be on every TV network and radio station in the country. She's kind of like the postmenopausal Ryan Seacrest. She's promoting her new book, Hard Choices, and she can't stop stepping in it. Here she is getting grilled over gay marriage by Terry Gross on NPR.
I'm just trying to clarify so I can understand.
No, I don't think you are trying to clarify. I think you're trying to say that, you know, I used to be opposed and now I'm in favor and I did it for political reasons, and that's just flat wrong. So let me just state what I feel like you are implying and repudiate it. I have a strong record. I have a great commitment to this issue, and I am proud of what I've done and the progress we're making.
And claiming to be dead broke on CNN.
Remember, but we came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt. Money when we got there, and we struggled to, you know, piece together the resources for mortgages, for houses, for Chelsea's education. You know, it was not easy.
And finally suggesting that we should deport illegal alien children back to Central America.
They should be sent back as soon as it can be determined who responsible adults and their families are, because there are concerns about whether all of them can be sent back, but I think all of them who can be should be reunited with their families.
There you go, Hillary Tancredo. Now, if Hillary was trying to create the space for a left-wing alternative in the Democratic primary for president, I don't think she could do a better job. And let's not forget that Hillary's problem last time around was that she wasn't able to defeat an unknown left-wing candidate in the primary, not the general, the primary. She clearly hasn't learned much in 6 years. At some point, you have to ask yourself the question, if writing a book and going on the press tour is so damaging to your electoral prospects, why do it? I guess that would be a hard choice to make. Here to kick this around is the After Hours panel. She's the host of the Tammy Bruce radio show, which you can get online. The kitty likes to scratch. Tammy Bruce. And in for Mr. Leo Terrell is stand-up comic and PJTV contributor Stephen Cruiser. Scott Ott has the day off, and Tammy, we'll start with you on this.
All right, sounds good.
A book tour is supposed to help your electoral prospects. It's supposed to get you good publicity, especially when you go to friendly venues. NPR should be a friendly venue. CNN should be a friendly venue. ABC News should be a friendly venue. And they are tearing her up. What went wrong here?
Well, you know, part of the problem is it's also the Obama problem. There's a presumption amongst Democratic politicians that hard questions won't be asked. So you get surprised by Diane Sawyer. You get surprised by Terry Gross. The fact of the matter is the Clintons did more damage to gay civil rights with the Defense of Marriage Act, with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, than any president in history. So you would have to think that that question might come up. It's been years, and you'd think that she'd have a better answer, but she doesn't. So being asked hard questions from the beginning is a good thing, because then you're ready for them. Hillary wasn't ready for any of these questions because they surprised her. She is still, like, you know, in the 50s to some degree, and she's not expecting to be taken to task or to be treated in that fashion, and that's, I think, her major problem.
You know, Cruiser, when you look at who she's been alienating in these interviews, in the NPR interview, it's gay rights advocates. In the case where she said they were dead broke, and we now know that she was using loopholes to avoid paying taxes, she's upsetting people who are at the poor end of the economic ladder. When you look at the last one, where she's talking about deporting the illegal aliens, she upsets the open borders crowd. These are all big blocks of voters in Democratic primaries. What is she doing here?
I have maintained from the beginning, from the first time she ran for Senate, she's not a good politician. She is not a good candidate. She's horrible at both. She had some fortuitous circumstances getting her into office the first time. You know, Rudy Giuliani got sick, and then they had to do a last-minute replacement. And then she was an incumbent senator, kind of easy to win the second one. And then she was inevitable, just like she is now. She was inevitable for 2008 and got creamed in that primary. She is not good at this. So, and she's also one of the few people who hasn't gotten the memo that the Democrats have been hijacked hijacked by the progressives, because she is most definitely not a progressive. As you mentioned earlier, she's opening up a huge portion of her left flank right now for Elizabeth Warren to waltz in and take.
She's almost seems to be running in the general right now. She may, just like last time, think that she has it in the bag, that she's entitled to the nomination. They did not see Barack Obama coming. And the same situation is here. It's almost as though she doesn't need to appeal to that category, and she's already appealing to the general voter, and that's a big mistake.
This is a campaign team that looks like it's been reading too much of the inevitable press. You know, they've been believing their own hype.
Are the Democrats going to be able to clear the field for her? Because if she's going to win the primary, she's going to need help from the party establishment. They tried to help her the last time. They were unsuccessful in those efforts. And when the Democratic Party tries to step in, and like they did in going back to '68, when they wanted Hubert Humphrey to be the nominee, and they wanted the anti-war Democrats to take a back seat, and they crammed them through, what happened? In '72, you got McGovern, and the left-wingers took control of the process. And you, of course, had a dramatic defeat in November. If they try to push the Democratic Party primary voters into accepting a candidate who they see as a conservative, or they see as someone who's certainly not as liberal as them, there's going to be an amazing backlash here, isn't there?
Well, especially, and I think we don't know who's going to run, just like Barack Obama did come out of the blue a little bit. If somebody who, Elizabeth Warren, didn't she used to be a Republican? So she's going to be able to come in, seriously, appeal to the far left, and the machine will think then that she can tack to the right for the general. Hillary is not anticipating any of that. They've been so isolated. And remember what really caused damage in the last election, during the primary. It was the abandonment of her by the Kennedys, by John Edwards, by Bill Richardson. Now, they're not factors anymore in this regard. And so she might think, well, we got rid of them. We dealt with them. She doesn't realize, though, that the world has really changed quite dramatically. And I also have to put out there her health. One of the issues that might be driving a lot of this is the fact that she still looks not well. Look, I said Hillary could be elected president only when she looked like my Uncle Jack. Now she looks like my Uncle Jack 3 years after he's been dead. And that becomes a problem. So it's easier to like her when she looks like that, necessarily. Like Margaret Thatcher tended to look the same in a consistent way. She does not look good.
All right, now, Cruiser, you mentioned Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is not going to be the only left-winger who's looking at this and seeing an opportunity. Who else is on that list? Who else could fill that space?
They keep talking about the mayor of San Antonio like they're really trying to rush him along. In fact, in recent months, it seems like they're trying to microwave him to be ready for 2016. They're just like, okay, we'll give you the HUD job, we'll do this.
Speed defrost.
We're panic. And other than that, the Democrats don't have a deep bench right now, I don't think. They don't have somebody.
How about Schweitzer in Montana?
Maybe, but still, the name recognition is almost nowhere.
We just called Eric Cantor gay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's apparently got. Look, if the Democrats want somebody with a lot of good gaydar, I guess it's that Schweitzer guy.
But,
well, he is from Montana.
There
Isn't that
you
what
go.
Brokeback Mountain was?
We're surrounded by more than a few Democrats out here in Los Angeles. Here,
Brokeback Democrats.
Brokeback Democrats. Okay,
Montana.
You're awful. But all the Democrats I know out here, and there are thousands of them while you two are googly-eyed here, okay? There are thousands of them. I'm telling you, I don't know one Hillary Clinton supporter, not one. You say Elizabeth Warren, they all light up. They all, oh yeah, I could go for that.
Well, how about Schweitzer, though? Is he?
Nobody talks about him.
Okay.
Nobody talks about it. I mean, I think Hillary is so awful, Charlie Crist could run for this nomination and get it. That's how bad she is. And because he would look good by comparison next to her.
Jerry Brown?
Look, I'm not convinced that Jerry Brown is going to sit this out. Jerry Brown has wanted to be president for a very long time. He says he's not going to run, but he's going to win re-election in a landslide.
He'll have plenty
in California.
of money.
The state is in better financial shape than it was before, even though the pension crisis is still going to crush us.
Yeah.
But on paper, it looks better, at least in the short term. I could easily see him running for president. What do you think about the Fox interviews of Hillary Clinton? Because there's been some pushback. There is some criticism on Twitter. Bill O'Reilly just came out and referred to Greta Van Susteren as a liberal in a speech that he gave in New York City with Geraldo. What's your take on the job that Bret Baier and Greta Van Susteren did with her?
I thought it was decent. I mean, Greta used to be a liberal, so it's not it's not an outlandish accusation to lob at her. She's moved, to the right since she's been at Fox, because the paychecks are good when you do that at Fox. I mean, even Geraldo has his moments where he tips that way. Kirsten Powers, so I don't think there's anything untoward so far. I thought the interviews were decent. I thought most of the interviews have been decent so far. I think from the left-wing media, the odd thing though is that they have been hitting her with hard questions, but then they immediately turn around and tell us what we're not supposed to say when assessing her reactions to things. So,
well, I was on my radio show when the interviews were happening, and my audience, what they didn't like, what frustrated them, was that they would ask a question, Hillary would say something stupid, and there'd be no follow-up. And the problem is that they split it up between Greta and Brett.
Yeah.
Each one had 7 minutes. You had a 15-minute segment, and then the top of the hour, and then a 15-minute segment. So you had Greta had her for 7 minutes, then Brett had her for 7, and then 7 and 7. You can't. They were talking like the guy at the end of the commercials who's giving you all the bad things that the prescriptions will do to you. The really fast talking.
Right.
In order to get
Propecia.
Yeah, thank you. And it didn't give any rhythm. Neither interview had a chance to have a rhythm with the person. Like, look, Greta's a lawyer. She could have moved her easily into something where Greta would have, where Hillary would have made her own mistake, and she made plenty of them. So I think it was the setup. I don't know why they did it that way. But I don't think personally that it worked
well. I had suspicions about why they did it that way. I think if it had just been Brett, it would have been like, oh, mean Fox News. And so they brought Greta in to soften it up a little bit. Had I been in charge of that, I would have, since he's still on the sidelines doing some work for them, I would have brought Brett Hume out to do this entire interview.
But wasn't O'Reilly?
He would have done a better job.
You mentioned O'Reilly's like, oh, Greta's a liberal. O'Reilly's interviewed Barack Hussein Obama and did everything except ask him what kind of socks he likes. Those have been the softest interviews.
We did it before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's ever learned. There's nothing that's ever
all right, last question.
Out.
The numbers for all of the interviews, not just the Fox one, not just the CNN, have been flat or down. Everyone was expecting a huge bump from the Hillary Clinton interview. They didn't get it. Why aren't people interested in seeing her interviewed on television?
Because she's the most unlikable woman in America.
And she
Good night, folks.
she lectures you, but that Diane Sawyer interview was the first one, and people didn't like her in that interview. And I think she chose Diane Sawyer because she figured, with my original point, that it was going to be easy peasy. People didn't like what they saw. They see Benghazi happening. They see the entire situation in Iraq. They don't believe her, and they don't like her. And that one interview reinforced that, and after that, they were done.
Tammy Bruce, host of the Tammy Bruce Radio Show. You can get her online at tammybruce.com. Stephen Cruiser doing the work of two people today. That's God's work, Cruiser. And for Scott Ott and Leah
Or
Terrell.
schizophrenic, one or the other.
I'm just neurotic.
And here's what I want you to do in the comment section this time. I want you to give us your critique over the Hillary interview on Fox. It was Bret Baier and Greta Van Susteren. You heard what we thought about it. I want to know what you think about it, so put your comments there in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching After Hours. We'll see you again next time. I'm John Phillips.